But the terror I feel about this is not some trifling thing. It is a future that I see not as merely a worst-case scenario, but the only final scenario. This is, I know, a debate prompted by compassion, the desire not to see someone we love suffer. It's an instinct I understand utterly, and I empathise with those proposing it, but I will be voting against the motion. I too am motivated here by compassion. I think we all are, because nearly everyone who approaches this debate will do so through the lens of the last moments of someone they love, someone they've seen suffer, someone whose pain they've wanted desperately to lessen. How could anyone disagree with that? My contention, though, is that we must also look at this through the lens of those not surrounded by people they love, those marginalised, pushed to the sidelines by society, those people who could be placed under pressure in a future that is horrifyingly near at hand to end their lives because the necessary palliative care is not available, or because they feel themselves to be a burden. My fear with this motion, well, my terror really, is not so much with how it will begin as with how it will end. There are safeguards in what is being proposed in Westminster. Indeed, there are. But every precedent we see internationally shows that no safeguard is sacrosanct. The experience of Canada, the Netherlands, Belgium, and some states in the US show what can so easily, so inevitably happen. Laws firstly introduced for people who are terminally ill, as is being proposed in Westminster, and bit by bit the safeguards have been eroded so that now people with depression, with anorexia and many other non-terminal disorders can qualify. Disorders from which people can recover. Lives that will have been ended that might have got better. But more worryingly than that normalisation is how quickly the vulnerable in those societies felt and were at risk. In the US state of Oregon, over 47% of people who ended their lives cited as a reason the fact that they didn't want to be a burden on their families or caregivers. And I fear those changes will be inevitable if the bill in Westminster passes, because courts in those places have felt obliged to extend the rights given to some citizens to others. It becomes a macabre certainty. There will be no turning back from it. The debate around assisted dying is often presented understandably, utterly understandably, as a way of offering people a choice. But for many disabled people, or people who are not close to their family, people who are worried and anxious and lonely, it would lead to them feeling they have no choice but to end their life. That is exactly what Tanni Gray-Thompson has warned about, the sense that some people will get, that their lives will matter less, or that because of the high costs of their care, it would be selfish to stay on. I do not mean this as scaremongering. It is a reflection of what has happened in other parts of the world that have opened the door crack and have had it blown open, never to be able to close it. It's why Nicola Sturgeon said earlier this year she'd moved away from supporting assisted dying because of all these quiet, terrifying inevitabilities. A former Archbishop of Canterbury has drawn headlines recently in this debate by saying, "There is nothing holy about agony. Indeed, there is not. But neither would there be anything kind in causing people to feel they have no choice. Because in a debate of this nature, a debate of such fundamental consequence, we have to think not just of its intentions, but likely effect, of all the lives of the people we will never meet, but who will be affected fatally by this decision. This is probably the most difficult debate I've had to speak in since being in the Senedd. I did feel I had to speak. It's difficult because I can understand so utterly why so many people want this change. I do truly understand that. I feel it in my heart. But the terror I feel about this is not some trifling thing. It is a future that I see not as merely a worst-case scenario, But the only final scenario, a future where few safeguards remain, where there is investment that is lessened in palliative care instead of increasing it as we should be, and where desperate people feel obliged to take a step they can never take back. It is for these reasons, dear Pollywydd, that I felt compelled to speak with every respect and empathy for those who propose it, but it is also why I feel compelled to vote against.